Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone and Eid Mubarak. Today we have a very special guest. Hena Khan is the award-winning Pakistani American author of popular middle grade novels, Amina's Voice, More to the Story, and Zaid Salim, Chasing the Dream series. In addition to beloved picture books like Golden Domes and Silver Lanterns, Crescent Moon and Pointed Minarets, Night of the Moon, Under My Hijab and It's Ramadan, Curious George. Hena was one of the first authors of children's books about Muslims that were traditionally published in the United States, and she loves to write about her culture and religion, as well as other topics like space, superpowers, and spies. You can learn more about her work at www.hinakhan.com and find her books wherever they are sold. So now we are going to talk to Hena, and she is going to share more about her book, More to the Story, which is inspired by Louisa May Alcott's beloved classic, Little Women, featuring four sisters from a modern American Muslim family living in Georgia. So, Hena, I would love for you to explain a little more about the book, and then can you also tell us what inspired you to write this book?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, this is the book right here, More to the Story. And like you mentioned, it was inspired by Little Women, which was my favorite book growing up. A
Mine
book
too.
that really, oh yay. So I read it over and over again. And my sister had a copy that I would borrow and read until it just fell apart and we had to tape up the spine. And I read it through from beginning to end multiple times. And then I got to the point where I would just open the book, and wherever I landed, whatever page I fell open to, I would just start reading from there. And I read it, I want to say, almost every day. My family got sick of it. They were like, why is this book always lying on the table? And if I was, they would know where I was depending on where the book had been. And I think I just really connected to this story of this family with four sisters, even though it was written 150 years ago and took place in a very different time. I feel like I connected to this idea of the strong family, even some of the norms of the society that they were living in were things that were somewhat familiar to me as a South Asian American. I understood, worrying what other people thought of me, like how much that mattered, how I behaved in public, how I was perceived, the respect for elders, even some of the gender norms or ways that we were supposed to, behave when it came to dating or marriage or things like that was familiar to me in this classic novel. And so I think, especially growing up at a time where I didn't see other Pakistani American characters in books, and so that was the closest I could get, and in a way I could relate to these girls almost as well as I could relate to the children I was growing up with, who I also felt different from. And so when it came time for, I was thinking about an idea for a book, and it just popped in my head that I think it would be amazing to write a Pakistani American version of Little Women. And initially that's what I thought I would do. I thought I would retell the story and keep it pretty much the same in terms of what happens, but just sort of modernize it and change it to be these, new characters. But in the end, I ended up writing a completely different story. So I took pieces of the book I love so much, and I wove it together into a new story. So if you've never read Little Women, you might, you'll just get a brand new story. If you have read Little Women and you read my book, you'll see what I took and what I left out. And it's almost a game for people sometimes to see what I chose to include and what I didn't. And I went from memory, and I just, pulled the scenes and themes that were really significant to me personally, since that book is really huge and very dense.
Yeah. I grew up in India, and I also have two sisters, so three sisters. And, we also exactly the same thing that you said. There were so many things that we related to, although we were growing up in a different country, in a different continent, but and a different era. But there are so many things we related to, and we still relate to.
Yeah.
So no, thank you for that. So in terms of the characters, what are the similarities and differences in some of the key characters from the book The Little Women?
So my characters are younger than what you find in the classic. So, Josephine March, the character that I most connected to, was around 16 at the beginning of Little Women, and it spans many years of their lives. And so my character Jamila, who is my main character, is 13, and she's right here on the cover. And so you'll notice I kept the first letter of all the sisters' names the same as the classic. So Jo March is Jamila Mirza, and they call her friends and family call her Jam for short. Here we have Mariam, her eldest sister, who's like Margaret or Meg, and uh, this is Eliza, who is like Amy, the youngest, and this is Bisma, who's like Beth, the third in order. And in terms of personalities, there's some similarities to the classic crew in the sense that Jamila is a writer who's very passionate, who has a quick temper, who has a strong sense of justice. She is an aspiring writer, and she writes for her school newspaper. Mariam is sweet, and she's the eldest, so she takes care of everyone. She loves to bake, but she also is really into beauty. She's known for being a beauty, so she spends a lot of time with makeup and hair tutorials on YouTube and primping, and she's on her phone here, which I think is indicative. Bisma is the third, and she, like Beth, is sweet and musical and just really wants everyone to get along and be happy. And she's what one reviewer called human sunshine, which I thought was sort of appropriate. And the youngest, Eliza, who's like Amy, similar to Amy, sort of gets the rap for being maybe spoiled, or that's what Jamila likes to call her. She sort of likes to get what she wants and pushes for it. She was actually one of my favorite characters to write, and I feel like she was a bit misunderstood sometimes, and the youngest, and that sometimes has its own challenges when everyone's always telling you what to do. So definitely things similar and different from the original cast, but fun to draw from their personalities.
That's great. So you said you have one sister?
I do. I have an older sister, and I have two younger brothers. So there are four of us as well, but different genders, and we're spread out a bit more in age.
Right. Yeah. So since we are talking about Eid, firstly, Eid Mubarak.
Thank you so much. You too.
So can you tell us a little more about, how you celebrated Eid as a child? And of course, you celebrated it in America. And then now that you have your own kids, how has the celebration process changed or been similar? If you can tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so Eid was, of course, something we looked forward to so much when we were kids. We had the countdown starting during Ramadan. We would celebrate with Chandrat, and then, of course, Eid morning would be breakfast, going to the mosque, dressing up in our new Eid clothes, and exchanging Eid greetings with our friends and family, and really visiting a lot of friends and family, as many as we could. We'd go from house to house and eat and get stuffed, and then go to another house and eat some more, and get gifts of money, Eid, that we would collect. And then we would usually, my parents then would take us to a toy store, Toys R Us. It was this old-fashioned toy store that doesn't exist anymore. They would take us, and we would pick out something that we wanted. And it was just a really special, fun day. With my kids when they were growing up, I think we, as a community of friends who had grown up in America and maybe felt a bit left out during the holiday season, we, I think, in many ways tried to mimic some of what we see around Christmas time. And so we have, more emphasis on decorations and giving gifts that are wrapped, like fancy wrapping. And it's been fun to see more and more Ramadan, cards and decorations available even in party stores and things like that, because those are things we just didn't have. But the essence of Eid is the same. And we still do all the same things, from going to the mosque to visiting family and friends to collecting gifts. And of course the elders still give my children Eid money, and of course we give them presents, and a lot of eating and a lot of togetherness and celebrating. So it's a very special day.
It is a very special day. So tell us about the chapter that you'll read, and we would love to hear, a little more about the chapter. You're going to read the chapter for us, right?
Yes. So I thought I'd start with the opening chapter and more to the story, which takes place on Eid. And this is a similarity between my book and Little Women, because Little Women opens up on Christmas Day and the girls grumbling, with Amy grumbling about how Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents because their family's poor. And so I start with a little bit of complaining on the part of my youngest sister, Eliza here, as a sort of a tribute to the Little Women. But it starts off on Eid Day and continues from there. So I will read this first chapter. This is the worst Eid ever. Eliza flops onto the sofa and grabs the TV remote. You'll wrinkle your outfit, Bisma warns. I don't care, Eliza says, then quickly adjusts her kameez beneath her. It doesn't feel like Eid. Baba's not here. We were supposed to leave for the party like an hour ago, and now we're stuck at home because people are coming over. Your whining doesn't make it any better, I snap at her. She's right that it's been a pretty disappointing day so far. Baba had to fly out for an interview in Maryland early this morning before the rest of us went to the mosque for prayers. It's our first Eid without him, and everyone's been on edge. But it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe things will turn around. Come on, guys. It's Eid, Bisma pleads. Can't you be nice to each other today? She should be nice. Jam's always mean to me. Eliza shakes her finger at me and her eyes fill up. So much for things turning around. There's no way to sugarcoat it. My younger sister is spoiled rotten. Eliza's only 10, but that doesn't stop her from bossing around Bisma, who's a year older than her. And it doesn't matter to her that I'm 13 and in middle school. Eliza doesn't respect me like she should. Jamila, Mama calls to me from the kitchen. Can you go down and get the nice napkins from the garage? Okay. I'd rather face the lizards in the garage than listen to Eliza whine for a second longer. Ever since Bisma saw a baby gecko scamper along the walls and freaked out like it had escaped from Jurassic Park, I'm the only one of us girls who dares go in there alone. The air in the garage is suffocating, which isn't surprising since it's like 500 degrees outside. This year, Eid fell in August, the hottest month of the summer. Today also happens to be the kind of record-breaking scorcher that earns Atlanta the nickname Hotlanta. The jumbo pack of napkins is on a crowded shelf next to a box marked Jamila Stuff, Private, where I've stored my old journals and collection of last year's middle school newspapers. I was the only sixth grader who was an assistant editor and had an article in every issue of the paper, so I saved 2 copies of each. I resist the urge to carry the box inside so I can reread them, savoring each word like I want to. Out of the corner of my eye, I spot a lizard, frozen in place near the garage door opener. I decide it's going to be the subject of a future article in the Mirza Memos, the family newspaper I've been writing since I was 9 years old. Maybe I'll research whether geckos have ever harmed humans, or how to get over the fear of creatures that resemble tiny alligators. If that includes hypnosis, I hope my sisters will let me try it out on them. I make sure my box isn't at risk of getting crushed by the endless stream of things that flow out of our townhouse into the garage. Then I grab a stack of napkins and head upstairs to the kitchen. Mama's arranging mini samosas on a platter, while Mariam cuts the raspberry bars she made into neat squares. Can you put those on the table with this fruit? Mama's brow furrows as she eyes the simple cotton shalwar kameez I threw on for Eid prayers earlier. Aren't you going to change into your new clothes? This morning I hit my snooze button over and over, which left no time to iron the bright green outfit with sparkly gold threadwork I'd left crumpled on my floor after trying it on last week. All I needed was a big star on my head, and I would have looked exactly like a walking Christmas tree, decorated with tinsel. But since Mama's cousin in Pakistan had sent me the outfit, and because I knew it must have been expensive, I pretended to like it. Please say you will, Mariam adds. My older sister is elegant in her silvery gray outfit with black embroidery. Her makeup, perfected after hours of watching tutorials on YouTube, is flawless. She's wearing a high bun with wisps of loosened hair that frame her cheekbones. As she bats her dark lashes at me, I squint at her, trying to tell if they're fake. She looks older than 15 and is glamorous. It's too hot for silk. Who's coming over anyway? I tuck a curl that escaped my ponytail behind my ear and try not to think about how my rolled out of bed look compares to Mariam's. Why do we need to impress them with fancy napkins? Uncle Said, he's bringing his nephew. I'm just trying to make it special for Eid, Mama says. I perk up when I hear Uncle Said. He's Baba's best friend and our dentist. He's always armed with corny jokes and free toothbrushes. When the doorbell rings, my mother gives me a gentle shove. Go change your clothes and fix your hair, please, she urges. There's a big stain on your camise. It's fine, I say as I bound down the stairs for the door. Uncle Said won't care. I'll change before the party. I throw the door open. Eid Mubarak, Uncle Said declares. He's holding a light blue box in his outstretched arms, and beads of sweat have already formed on his forehead. Something sugary for the sweetest of days. Uncle often speaks as if he's quoting a Hallmark card. Eid Mubarak. I take the box and scan the label. Yes, it's from Sugar Kisses Bakery. Mama thinks it's overpriced and refuses to take us there. But when I tried their salted caramel cupcake at Kayla's birthday party, it was literally one of the best desserts I've ever tasted. Thank you. Come on in. Oof, it's too hot today. Eid Mubarak, Farah Auntie manages a weak smile, but her nose wrinkles slightly when she scans my hair and my outfit. Are you feeling okay? She whispers before hugging me 3 times, enveloping me in the overpowering scent of her perfume. Such simple clothes for Eid? I'm great. I brush off Auntie's questions since she's always one to gently point out how I dress too plainly for parties, or weddings, or Eid. If I were wearing my tinsel tree getup, I'm sure I'd hear, oh, mashallah, today you look nice, no matter how uncomfortable or sweaty I felt. I've learned to let her and the other aunties comment about me and then gush over Mariam. She puts enough effort into dressing up for both of us. Uncle clears his throat. Jamila, this is my nephew, Ali, from London. A tall boy with curly hair steps out from behind his uncle. I don't know anything about Pakistani fashion, but his crisp blue shalwar kameez with silver buttons isn't like the beige or tan colored ones Baba and Uncle wear. That, along with the way he's shielding his eyes from the bright light, makes it seem like he could be posing for the cover of my mom's glossy South Asian lifestyle magazine, Libas. I almost want to laugh. Assalamu alaikum, he says to me, extending his hand like a grown-up, although he can't be much older than me. Pleasure to meet you. Ali's accent is definitely British, and his voice is deeper than I expected it to be. Walaikum assalam, I stammer as his dark eyes pierce mine. Suddenly I have another vision of how disheveled I must appear, and my cheeks heat up from more than the hot sun. I offer a limp handshake, try to cover up the stain on my shirt by folding it over, and gesture towards the stairs. Come on in, it's a lot cooler inside. Everyone's upstairs, I mumble. I'll be right back. I just have to change and get ready. That's the end of the first chapter.
You are so right. Like, I mean, I can relate to it completely. And I see the glimpses of Little Women come alive. It's beautiful. Oh my goodness. And it's very festive also.
Thank you. So a little taste of Eid, but also a way to just sort of weave it into a story that's really, about any girl who is, a Pakistani American Muslim, but, has regular challenges and is trying to navigate life. And, it's a part of her, an important part of her. But I wanted to write books where, identity isn't the problem, if that makes sense, where it's not like, oh, why am I, brown, or why am I Muslim, or why is, those aren't the issues. Jamila's family encounters other challenges, and but that's not it. So hopefully stories that people from all cultures can relate to, but
Absolutely.
also representation that's positive.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. I cannot wait to read this book myself because, as
Thank
I
you.
mentioned, I'm such a big Little Women fan, and I feel, I want to see how this goes. Like, this first chapter was excellent.
Thank you.
We will include links to your books, all your books. Is there anything coming? Any new books in the pressure cooker right now, or in the cooker?
Well, I have a new picture book that just came out last month called Like the Moon Loves the Sky, also by Chronicle Books, the publisher of Night of the Moon, my first picture book. And I just finished up a sequel to Amina's Voice, which is called Amina's Song, and that will be coming out next March, so in a few months, early next year.
Yep.
And yeah, and I'm working on some new projects, some projects with other authors, actually, some collaborations, and some new picture books, and think lots that I'm excited about. So if anyone's interested in keeping track of my publications or what I have next, like, feel free to follow me or connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram and on Twitter and Facebook sometimes.
Yeah.
You can see what I have coming out. You can check out my website, and hopefully see what's coming, and connect with me.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, and Eid Mubarak, Hena.
Thank you. Eid Mubarak to you and to everyone, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.